Everybody. Master Mason Note is coming at you here. Now, this one is really the one that got me. I was watching Jim. I tried to catch I really like Jim watching these on Fridays, so that way I can get the earnings or some general guideline of the playbook, M1, E2, before you get into the investment committee variances of those, where every once in a while you'll see a snapshot of one of them, but for the most part, that's a line somewhere else where they'll get into more detail about this, which is fair. You know, anything you could run through here, there's a multi-metrics of things that could happen, and but you know, paying a little bit, I'll put in a little bit of work for you about setting up certain charts and things like that, which I wanted to do right now just for the personal consumption expenditure charts for the Fed. Now, why is that important? Well, Jim, you know, he'll get going through here, and I mean, I like this pitch. Here's IBM, here's Intel, there's probably, you know, you could say it's Verizon up here for the tech, and logistics is, you know, some coin inside of there. United, whether it be airlines, probably got some coin sector in here, and I don't know how he's sorting out his Excels and equipment accordingly to whatever that would be. But just in general, I wanted to touch on the PCE note. Now, what do we know? We know that personally, there's this business type of way of thinking about it, and then there's the personal house kind of way of thinking about it, but they're relativistic and non-relativistics. Both of them have a time function, and both of them have a frequency domain, right? That my house has this frequency. If I consider that in an inverted square, what would be called the PCE, it's going to help me to derive overall numbers of it. The CPI, things I buy, personal consumption as far as my food, my annual books into that, and what numbers aggregate make that up. Why is that important? Because for me, it's going to build me a standard model. That standard model is going to run from, well, I have Devil Dogs, I have lunch stuff inside here, so what's in the same price range on my Excel that I just said, CPI for my home life could be any weekly rotation of Taco Tuesdays or some variable that I've planned that out, and even though it's dinner at Red Lobster's, that's still within the CPI for what I'm doing for the meal that day, within the budgetary concerns of what the annual cycles or mods and periods are for that. Okay, that's great. That's just the CPI. Why is that way? We could argue some things about the PPI in just a moment. Let's get to that. You could even argue that the Red Lobster was into some the light bill, the restaurant cost, or something like that doesn't correlate to a direct grocery store, but it does. We have to argue what sectors and the overall calculus nature of that to really determine why, as a calculus, that would be the bag of holding or shopping cart CPI. Okay, so we've sectored that out. We believed that there was a chart for it, and then we started going Devil Dogs, Hostess the Mostest, any kind of combinations of those things, and had GPT or Siri pump me out some grocery list that was acceptable for what it is. I will read that output and then make a determination or change something at that point in time to augment it to a better criteria. It made the list for me. It decided what I was doing the last 2 weeks to not overlap Taco Tuesday, if that's so what you wish. Okay, now short of that being a problem in the world, not enough ground beef, there's no reason that Taco Tuesdays and anybody else's Taco Tuesdays wouldn't overlap and in some way come to quarter Corinthians, Leviticans, some level of, you know, beating the shit out of somebody's kidneys in there. So now that you have that, and then there's this PPI number, there's light bill, there's the sector analysis water bill, there's whether this be for your personal house or whether it be for a business. And again, let's just for the moment put that in the photon and gluon, W boson, Z boson, however that works category, X minus Y, right? Okay, fine. I pi, not 2 pi moving right, I pi. The equation, CPI, is what moves over. When we have that done, there will become a time, now that we have those forms done, you know, I have to do a spot check on the place, right? I have to check those bills. I wasn't really there as an arbiter, and I have to do this. The Fed's favorite credit rating, you know, was to come in there. I could do CPI, also one of my favorites. I could do just the PPI. In a way, I will be doing that. But I have to check that against your person, or I have to check that against your company. And when I think about it like a company, companies, unless you're a food shop, aren't going to do this. A stone mill, however, is going to get into a different form of the CPI with me and you. Okay? What I have to add up is all your guys' pay stubs inside of there to correlate what is a Buchholz average over the E2 to E8 over that theory to make sure that you're not having a security risk by a PPE based on that PCE, because it makes me just all kinds of your favorite kind of person, I'm sure. So, you know, I hope that touched on the issue in a way I appreciated Jim bringing it up, and the way he even touched on the subject in there was because he touched on it that I really decided to click in there and see that it's a personal consumption index or expenditures list. That means I'm watching them like Gensler for a week, and I'm seeing just that Project Black Book. Those numbers shouldn't vary, or when I simulator that, break down the CPI or their PPI too far. But I can't just wholly respect that PPI or CPI as if it's a personal consumption number inside of here, because what makes it up at the atomic, molecular level, which is doable. I'll go to the website right now and we will get the hardened software where necessary here. Catch you on the next one.